Hello beautiful people and welcome to another video. In this one I'll be working on this umbrella / telephone stand. Mando, do you think we can fix it? If you're not new to my channel, you're probably used to seeing some pieces of furniture that look really bad. This one from a distance looks okayish. It's got lots of issues, but it just spoke to me for whatever reason and I just wanted to do something really nice with this one. There was no paint on this one for change, but it did take a lot of sanding. If you can see, there is a little shelf on the bottom and a hole next to it, and I'm assuming there was some sort of drip tray, so just, when you put an umbrella in the stand, it would collect all the rain. And I think that this piece looks quite boring as it is, so I think this is the area where I'll be able to add something to make it, a bit more fancy. There was a little bit of rot at the bottom of every single leg, but it wasn't a lot, so I didn't feel like I had to actually replace it. I basically just cut off a little bit from every single leg, just made them shorter and just left it like that. And as you can see, it didn't make a big difference, maybe, I don't know, 2-3 centimeters or about an inch. I did something similar on my previous project, but this is going to be a stationary piece of furniture, so I'm not going to add casters to this one. There's quite a lot of woodworm damage, so I'm just gonna use this spray and spray everything. So this is one of the issues that I mentioned at the beginning, but it's pretty typical for old furniture, so you just apply something like the spray I'm using, let it dry, and bob's your uncle. As I was doing this, I also realized that there was some rot on the bottom, but I'll get to it later. For now, I'm gonna do more sanding. This piece was split, so I just applied some glue, clamped it together, and that was a pretty easy repair. If you've seen my recent community posts, you probably know that I'm going to work on a very cool old desk, but it's absolutely humongous, so I'm just going to wait until my apprentice starts working with me next month and we'll get to it together because it's going to be a challenge. This not only needs to be re-glued, it's also rotten, so I'll need to treat this because it's really soft. I could easily break this piece. And as you can see, there is some woodworm damage as well. I've sprayed this, but I'll need to use wood hardener on this one because it's rotten. Alternatively, you could just cut off a piece of wood and replace it with new one, but in this case I think my fix is going to be just fine. After I mentioned that I'm getting an apprentice in my previous video, I've had lots of questions about it, and without getting into details, because obviously you'll get to know him in a little bit, it's been something that I've thought about for a long time, and the main reason why is because I've wanted to put out more content and it's been just very difficult to do it just on my own. And as you can imagine, this is not your typical 9 to 5 or whatever, so it's been very difficult to find someone who would fit into the picture. And my new apprentice is someone that I've been friends with for a long time, and I think this is kind of a coincidence. As you can see, there's some woodworm damage, and there was a little bit of, it felt like rot. Yeah, it is quite soft. Feels much better now that there is some glue inside, but I'm gonna apply some wood hardener so I can actually work with this and I won't need to worry that this is going to crumble. This is what I'm going to use. I've used this in the past and it works quite well. I'm just going to let this soak into the wood and it will make it much harder. Going back to the whole apprentice thing, I've never wanted my YouTube channel to be like a regular job because that's the whole reason why I quit hospital. But I've always wanted to have more structure in the way I work and put out content on a regular basis and do more of it. By getting an apprentice whom I will need to pay for what he does, I'm basically forcing myself to deliver on my promises. This way I'll be able to put out more content while having a nice work and life balance. Talking about work and life balance, exercising is just one of the things I've been trying to do to stay sane, especially when I was working through COVID in the hospital. The whole reason I started my YouTube journey was anxiety, exhaustion, and stress caused by working in a hospital. And since quitting my job, I've been looking for ways to lower my stress level and live a healthier lifestyle. Physical activity helps a lot, but nutrition is super important to keep my body and mind in great form. Magic Mind is a mental performance shot loaded with everything you need to be focused, productive, and motivated. Unlike energy drinks or coffee, Magic Mind doesn't give you the caffeine crash that you get sometimes when you drink too much coffee, and you can drink it in the evening. Magic Mind is full of vitamins, organic highest grade matcha and mushrooms, as well as herbs. It tastes great and you can mix it with oat milk, ice, or sparkling water. I first tested Magic Mind way before I actually decided to do this partnership because I wanted to make sure I actually like it and it works. I feel like my mind is clearer and more focused, but I also like that Magic Mind is 100% carbon neutral, but also helps mental health charities and homeless communities. Click the link in the description and enter my code FlippingDrawers20 for a great discount. And if you do give it a try, do let me know what you think. Let's see what Mando thinks. Probably won't surprise you that I did some more sanding, this time by hand, just to make sure I removed all of the marks left by my sander.
2,000 years later.
For all the woodworm damage, I use this plastic wood. If you haven't used this before, it looks like sawdust mixed with glue, but this dries really quickly, literally like a minute. So you can easily just apply this, sand it a couple minutes later and just move on to the next thing. As you watch me filling the holes with the plastic wood thingy, I just want to give a shout out to all of you amazing people and especially the channel members. You guys rock. And if anyone is interested in supporting the channel, you can find all the links in the description. And as always, thank you. As I mentioned, this plastic wood dries really quickly, so about 10 minutes later I just went over all those spots with a sander and it was pretty much ready for the next step. Well, almost. The bottom of this little storage compartment was nailed to the pieces of wood surrounding it, but it looked like it was going to cause some damage if I tried to remove it, so I just sanded it just as it is in place. As I was sanding, I realized that there was a big crack in one of the sides, so I applied a piece of tape, just not to make any mess, and some glue, clamped it together, and Bob's your uncle. So now that I'm pretty much done with all this, it's time to come up with an idea what to do for the hole where the drip tray used to be. Instead of just replacing the drip tray or making it like I did in one of my old videos with a 3D printer, I'm going to make something completely different, and probably won't surprise you that this involves brass. What I'm doing now, I'm basically making support pieces for a bunch of brass rods that I'm going to space out evenly and create some sort of shelf that is not going to be solid. So this is going to hold the brass rods, and this is going to go on the other side. I think you can see where I'm going with this. I cut a bunch of pieces, whatever I had in stock, and some of them were solid and some were hollow inside, and for whatever reason the color was not exactly the same, but I spaced them out symmetrically, so it looks great. You might be thinking, what's the point of doing this if, the rods will not collect any water? And that's a valid point, but I don't know if someone will actually use this for umbrellas or maybe for something else. But you can always put something underneath if you need to collect the water. For example, if this is on a carpeted area, but I don't know, I like it this way. This support piece is made of pine, so I'm applying a piece of veneer just so it looks like the rest of the stand. And because you can see the edge of this piece as well, this is how I took care of that. And to attach it to the stand, I used some glue and I clamped it in place. When it was dry, I went over the entire piece with higher grade sandpaper and got it ready for the final step. I dusted it off using a tack cloth and I was ready to finally put the finish on it. I didn't really want to apply any stain, so this is what I did. I don't want to wait for the stain to dry, so I'm going to tint the oil that I'm using, so this way I can apply the top coat and some color at the same time. I've got a couple of pigments, and I'm going to mix and match and see what I like. Unlike stain, this is not going to change the color completely, but kind of give it a tint. And I can't really decide, this is like a warmer brown, and this is like a more typical brown. I don't know how to describe it. And I've got some black. I think I'm going to go with this one. Not all of the pieces are exactly the same, so this way I'll be able to make sure that the color is pretty much the same on all of the pieces. And some of them are covered with veneer and some of them are solid wood, so that's why they're slightly different color. Don't know if you can see this, but this is more black, this is more brown. I think I'm happy with this. As you can see, this is extremely easy for someone who maybe doesn't have a lot of experience with top coats. This way you can just literally use a piece of cloth, apply the oil and some color at the same time. The really nice thing about using hard wax oil is that you can basically handle it as soon as you wipe it off. So I've already applied some color and the finish, and this is just a very simple way of doing this. If you are one of those people who want to get into furniture business, or maybe you own a piece of furniture that needs some work, I would say that this is the easiest and the most forgiving way of applying a top coat and some color at the same time. The cool thing about it is that you can just keep adding more pigment if you're not happy with the color, or just mix them and just try something else until you're happy. It's just so simple. I kind of wish I knew this a couple years ago when I started working with top coats, because now I can actually use the other top coats because I know how. I've tried it a few times and I've got some experience, but this is just so much easier. And probably the best thing about using this method is that as soon as you apply the oil and wipe off the excess, you can touch it. It's not cured yet, and it will take some time, actually quite a lot of time, but you can handle it if you need to. And as you can see, there was an area that was slightly different color. So I just used a small artist brush and a little bit of oil with some pigment from the bottom of this container and did some touching up. And this piece, because it was much newer, I mean the veneer, I just added another coat of oil just to make it look like the rest of the stand. This is not brass, unfortunately, so I'm just gonna get real brass hinges because this is cheap. So I did get new hinges, I put them on, and it's all done. I hope you guys enjoyed the project, and there is way more coming soon. I hope you're excited about my new apprentice. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.